Hey team, this will be the test security training. Hope you enjoy. It's really important to note that while this training will provide you a lot of information, it will not take the place of any of the appropriate manuals that you'll be provided before testing day. All testing personnel are going to need to sign the appropriate security oath. I'll make sure to come by Friday of this week to get that signature from you all. Remember that all tests must be administered in accordance with the instructions in the manuals. So what that means is that you can't view, reveal, or discuss any of the contents of the test. No copies can be made, no reading, anything like that. Best way to sum it up is don't look, don't read, don't show, keep all charts secured. Very important, you cannot make any copies. Remember that all subject area tests will be sealed. It's important that these stay sealed until it is time to open it up for the test, and this is only if you're authorized to do so. Make sure that you don't answer any questions. This is before, after, or during the test, whether verbally or non-verbally. You are not allowed to amend or change any of the responses made by a student. Only the students can do that, so that's whether that's calculating, solving, or responding to any test items. It's also important, this is a big thing, all test administrators will need to provide a seating chart of their class for that testing session. Make sure to keep track of all the materials that you are given, and always keep the answer documents and test booklets in a secure and limited access locked storage when they're not in use. So they should be in your sight, in your possession at all times. If for any reason you need to leave them unattended, make sure that they are secure and locked. After each test administration, make sure you collect all of the things. So even this includes graph paper or scratch paper or any type of reference materials that are used, and we'll be responsible, or I will be responsible for making sure that that information is shredded. While this isn't very relevant to you all, it's important to note that after testing, all the materials will be inventoried and packaged, and then they are documents are maintained for 5 years. Again, in order to handle any testing materials, it's important that you guys sign a security oath. I will make sure to come by and get your signature after you guys have completed watching the PowerPoint and received a 100% on the test afterwards. It is essential that you are actively monitoring during the exam. What this means is that you should be walking around the classroom, making sure that students are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, that you are not on your cell phone or computers or grading or anything along those lines. So you should be the entire time actively monitoring the classroom. Take a second to read what active monitoring is. Again, it's ensuring that students are working on the correct section, that they're marking their answers on the answer document, they're not cheating, they're not using cell phones, they're not talking or communicating with other students, and other things along these lines. So what is not active monitoring? You should not be working on your computer or answering emails. You should not be reading a book, a magazine, or a newspaper. You should not be grading papers or doing lesson plans. Leaving the room without a trained substitute test administrator in the room, leaving students unattended during lunch or breaks, using your cell phone, text messaging, answering emails on your cell phone. All of these things would be considered not active monitoring, some things that you should not be doing. Because electronics disrupt the testing environment and they can be used to cheat or provide assistance on test content, and also just to take pictures and things like that of the testing materials, they are completely prohibited during testing. So this even means if you need to contact me or something like that, you cannot use your cell phone to do so. In order to contact me, you'll have a sign that says testing emergency or testing question that you can hang on your door, and that's what I will respond to. We will have hall monitors in the halls at all times so that we can make sure we address your questions immediately. Again, Use of electronics, cell phones, or other two-way communication devices is prohibited during testing for students and test administrators. For students, when they walk in, please make sure that they place all their backpacks in the back of the room with everything that they own. So we will provide pencils and highlighters and all those types of materials. They just need to place everything in the back so that nobody gets in trouble and no type of testing irregularities occur. Seating chart needs to be created for all test administrations. So this needs to include the location of the testing and a brief description of the testing area, the type of assessment that's being given, the first and last names of the test administrator or administrators, first and last names of each student and their test booklet number and where they were seated for testing, the start and end times for the test, the breaks, etc., names of all test administrators, break relievers, visitors, etc., etc. If students need to be regrouped during testing, an additional seating chart will be provided for them, and this should indicate where they were regrouped and so forth. And I will make sure that I provide you guys with seating charts for you to fill out. Testing irregularity is something that occurs in a deviation from documented testing procedures. If anything out of the ordinary occurs, immediately contact me, and then I will figure out what to do with our district testing coordinator and just take the steps necessary to solve any of the testing irregularities that we have. Again, the way that you would contact me is there is going to be a paper that says testing emergency, testing question that you'll place on your door, and that's how you can get a hold of me. So there are a few types of testing irregularities. There's eligibility error, which means an eligible student is not tested, or an ineligible student is tested. So if you find out that somebody that was not supposed to be tested is being tested, or vice versa, again, reach out to me. There's also an IEP implementation issue. So this is when a student receives some type of special ed service that they're not supposed to be receiving, or they don't receive a service that they are supposed to be receiving. Another thing could be that a student receives a special ed service but was administered the wrong test. Also, improper accounting for secure materials. So you are missing an answer sheet, or a test booklet has been misplaced, or some other type of secure material is missing. Maybe that you don't return them the day that they're supposed to be returned. So all materials need to be returned and checked in at the end of each testing day. So there will be no overnight carrying of any of the materials. The day that you administer the test is the same day that you turn in the materials. There's also a monitoring error. So this is when a test administrator leaves a room unattended, or maybe the materials are left unattended. Anything along those lines can be considered a monitoring error. Monitoring error would also include not monitoring students during a break, not ensuring that students are working independently, not verifying that a student filled in all of the responses on the answer document. A student is given access to remove secure materials from. There are also procedural errors. So an unauthorized individual is asked to move some of the secure testing materials, or a test administrator doesn't issue the correct materials to students, or students were provided more materials than they were supposed to be given. Testing personnel who were not properly trained were allowed to administer tests or handle secure materials. All of these types of things would be considered a procedural error. Also, a test administrator failing to use the administration materials or not reading the bold scripted test administration directions verbatim as outlined in the test. A student being provided an unallowable accommodation would be considered a procedural error. It's really important when you guys administer the test that you read directly from the booklet and you read the directions verbatim, because the state would like for all directions and all environments to be consistent throughout the entire state of Texas, so that there isn't an unfair advantage for any students. Take a second to read some of the testing irregularity penalties. So as you can see, the penalties are pretty serious. It's important that we take them seriously and that we take these situations seriously. The worst thing that we can do is not report the irregularity. If we see an irregularity, if we see a student cheating and talking to another kid, if we find out a student has an accommodation that they're not supposed to be getting or anything along those lines, and we report it to the state, then we're doing the right thing, right? Then we were actually actively monitoring. Then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. However, if the state finds out about these testing irregularities and we did not report them, then we weren't doing our job of actively monitoring. We weren't doing the job that we were supposed to be doing, and so that's a much bigger and worse situation. So let's identify things if we see them and report them immediately so that we are always doing the right thing. Some potential referrals of testing irregularities include like viewing the test before, during, or after an assessment. This includes viewing an examinee's secure test booklet without prior approval from TEA to verify if the student has marked test responses. Also scoring a student's test, even if this is like an informal thing, you're just kind of looking over their shoulder and trying to score their test. Another thing would be discussing test content or student responses or student performance. Even small talk in the teacher's lounge or anything like that, all of those things should not, we need to make sure that those do not happen. So as this, making a copy of secure materials without permission from TA, or assisting students with responses to test questions. This is directly or indirectly. Tampering with the student responses. Again, only the students should be marking things on their answer sheets. In order to prepare for testing and make sure that you guys are ready for the day of testing, make sure that you read all manuals, you account for all the materials before, during, and after each test administration, that you protect the content of all the test booklets, that you store all testing materials in a secure area, make sure that it is locked and nobody else has access to it. Make sure that you verify the student's testing requirements, and again, read all manuals. So this does not replace the manuals that you have to read before the testing. Again, I will provide those manuals with you well in advance of testing. During testing, some tips include making sure to secure your materials with a lock-in key where people have limited access to them. Do not leave secure materials open in a room. Do not leave them unsecured. Test administrators need to check out the secure testing materials on the morning of testing from me, and then you'll immediately return them when students finish testing back to me. There will be a check-in and check-out procedure for that. Each student needs to receive the correct assessment, and then you need to also verify that you are actively monitoring. It's important that you do not view, reveal, or discuss the contents of a test. If you're going to be doing oral administration, and I'll reach out to you specifically if you're doing that, it's important that you don't write any notes or calculations or any other marks in that, especially because you have full access to the test and you're actually reading it. You want to make sure that the seating charts have been completed. Those are things that we need to turn into the state, so it's important that they're completely filled out, and then make sure that you keep track of time, so beginning, ending, breaks, and any other times required. It is important that you understand that you may not provide assistance, you may not view tests without authorization, you may not discuss confidential student information, and you may not reinforce or check for strategies. You have to always have a test administrator present, so you do not leave the students unattended until every student has submitted their answer document. This also includes breaks and lunch. So during breaks and lunch, students should be completely silent so that they are not discussing the testing material. You want to make sure that you're constantly walking through and that you're not just seated in one specific place the entire time. And make sure you don't leave anything to chance. After testing, make sure you count all of the testing materials. Do not score the student responses, again, formally or informally. Don't erase any stray marks or anything like that. Do not view the tests. Verify that the materials are ready for return. There will be a checklist in the bin for you to make sure that everything is in order when you submit it to me. And then keep all testing materials in a locked storage. So go ahead and read the summary. I want to emphasize that you should contact me immediately with any concerns. If there's something that you don't know or you don't understand, please call me. That's what I'm here for. I want to help you guys out. I'd rather get 120 questions than no questions at all and a mess afterwards. So please, 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 please reach out. Don't hesitate one bit.